Did you know, in Firered Leaf Green, you cannot trade with Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald, or even trade any eggs, at all, until you complete the Sevi Islands postgame? How about that Ruby, Sapphire have no such trade restrictions? Neat. Okay, let's see. It's taking roughly 22 minutes to hatch a batch of 5 Chansey eggs, not counting the time to get them. That's pretty slow. I wonder if there's another way. Let's see. Pokemon box method. Trading pre-walked eggs. Has a chance for shiny. Install a patch onto game. Nah, that's not my style. And I couldn't afford Pokemon box if I wanted to. Alright, then it's going to take roughly 10 hours to gather 100 eggs. So 820 hours to reach odds, which is roughly 4.5 months. I guess I better get started. This is a 100 subscriber special after all. Oh cool, someone got a high IV Pokemon and traded it in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald until it was shiny. And they were able to just keep making new save files to trade to and check. Wait, can I speedrun the game manually and trade these eggs faster than just hatching? I mean, maybe, but who would do that process just to find out? So to start, we're going to need a file to speedrun the game on, and a file to save all of the eggs on. Pokemon Box would be the best option by far, as you can move a lot of eggs all at once. But since there's no way I'm going to be able to get a Pokemon Box, another cartridge will have to do just fine. That will take more time to have to manually trade each of the eggs, and normally I'd prefer to hunt with just one cartridge, but I'm only hunting on one cartridge, so that's going to be good enough for me. Next, we need to pick a Pokemon to speedrun with. Any Kanto Pokemon will be fine, since those can trade without issue, as long as they're in another Fire Red and Leaf Green game. Using channels that solo run Fire Red Leaf Green using one Pokemon, Mewtwo is without a doubt the best option. But he's not going to obey until the post-game because you can't catch him at level 5. However, he is a strong candidate for after completing the 8 badges. So for now, we need to pick a Pokemon that'll get us through the game until we have all 8 badges. Another high performer is actually Aerodactyl, and surprisingly enough, you can breed fossils. So, it's a perfect candidate. So to get Mewtwo prepared, we're going to need to get a Modest Nature Mewtwo, get enough coins for the TMs I need, PP ups to avoid needing to heal to recover power points, EV train, and level it up to 100, just so that I'm sure I can one-shot everything and never need to heal. Now I just need to breed the Aerodactyls with the eggs moves I want. I'm going to want around 27 of them, which should be more than enough for me to be able to hatch enough eggs to reach odds. Should be approximately 10,000 eggs worth. And as I'm doing this, I want to make sure I get rid of any attack down natures or any that do not have Rockhead as the ability, because I plan to use Double Edge as one of the moveset. Lastly, I need an HM user to be able to skip going through the Safari Zone for HMs. Dragonite is the only candidate that is a Kantomon that can learn Fly, Surf, Cut, and Strength. Now I just need to get Chansey with the proper egg moves, collect all the eggs, and pre-walk them. For anyone who doesn't know what pre-walking means, if you reduce the egg cycles you need to hatch down to under 255 steps, you can save the egg by putting it in your PC, and it'll take about 15 seconds on a bike to hatch. This information, the egg cycles remaining, the steps remaining, is saved even if you were to trade it to another file, but whether or not the Pokemon is shiny is re-rolled every trade. So on a new save file, you get another 1 in 892 chance that this egg that we've reduced the steps needed to hatch could be shiny. Now we just need to trade them onto the other game. However, since I keep all of my shinies on one game and I have other boxes full of useful Pokemon, I won't be able to use my Leaf Green cartridge for both eggs and holding the Aerodactyls to run with. So I'm going to use my Emerald file that has beaten the Elite Four and can trade, since being able to trade with Hoenn and being able to trade eggs have the same requirements. In the spirit of 2 cartridges, I'm going to limit myself to only using 14 total boxes between the 2 games, since normally you only get 14 boxes total. So I'll have 27 Aerodactyls, a Mewtwo, a Dragonite, and that'll be in my leaf green box. And then 13 boxes worth of eggs in my Emerald. And my Firered is good to reset and speedrun with. All this prep took 82 hours, and we've only seen 390 Chanseys. The equivalent would be approximately 810 if I had just done regular egg hatching. So we'll have to make up that time difference by being good at speedruns. I'm at the point where we're going to start talking about the routing of the speedrun. So if anyone's not interested in that, you can go ahead and skip to this point for just the shiny Chansey. Alright, let's get to how I routed this. I'm pretty confident that it's going to be faster with this methodology rather than actually doing a normal egg hunt. So just because I have the more extra time and I want to, I'm going to do 10 Charmander soft resets every run. Unfortunately, that didn't yield a shiny, but it was fun just to do it. First thing I'm going to need to do is catch enough Pokemon to trade the Aerodactyl, Mewtwo, and Dragonite to use for the speedrun. The first hurdle is going to be Brock's Onix using Rock Throw. I have a pretty strong moveset, so I'm pretty confident I can get there. It's just not 100% consistent if he hits me enough times. And then the next hurdle is going to be that halfway through Mount Moon, Aerodactyl gets over-leveled and stops obeying. So I tried switching over to using a Butterfree to level that up so that I could use it against Misty and poison it, switch to maybe Dragonite or Mewtwo, similar to how Pacifist Run would work, and then just wait out the clock until it dies. That didn't work at all. But I used Dragonite, got through Misty, and I shouldn't have any issues over-leveling Aerodactyl for the rest of the game. I'm going to try and prioritize being fast, but also consistent. So anything I encounter that is high RNG, I'm going to try to avoid and think of a solution for the next runs. I don't remember how Surge went. He's not even in the recording anymore, so I'm going to assume it wasn't any issue. While I'm going through Rock Tunnel, I get Rock Slide, thinking I'm going to need that extra power. Erica wasn't much trouble, but her Stun Spore and Poison Powder did become a bit of an issue and a bit slowed down my progress, so take a note of that. Rival Fivel was the next hurdle, and I ended up needing to use Mewtwo to deal with that. That's not good. I'm going to need to think of a better strategy here. Giovanni battles and Sabrina didn't pose any issue, but Koga's Poison and Blaine's Intimidate really slowed down the battle and wasn't very consistent. Giovanni was a much bigger hurdle. His Rhyhorns have a high chance of one-shotting me if he gets enough Rock Blasts off. But the rest of the game is easy now that I can just use Mewtwo to steamroll everything. But I do need to remember how to do the Savvy Island post-game. Need to get the National Dex. Okay, I don't have 60 Pokemon. Let me go get those. Side note for further down the video, I should be getting Ammonite and Eevee to speed up the 60 Dex requirement, but I plan to hunt these after I get Chansey, so for now I'm going to skip them so I can hunt them once I actually have a shiny Chansey. Back to the Savvy Island. I need 1 Ruby, 1 Sapphire, and trading is unlocked, and I can start the hatching process. It's important to note that as I'm doing this process, every 2 boxes of traded eggs, I need to reset the egg cycle back by going back and forth in the Pokemon Center until an egg hatches. Then I reset, put the eggs away, and do the same number of back and forths so that I can reset the egg cycle. Then I'm good to do another 2 boxes and just repeat, and I have no risk of the Pokemon hatching and slowly losing eggs as I do this process. Another thing is that in the speedrun file, there is a chance on that first trade that I'm like 1 step away from hatching and I can't get to the PC. As long as I have at least 1 step, I can trade it back to the Emerald game, take enough steps to reset the counter, and then get those eggs back into the file. And then I can just continue trading. Most of the time, I never needed to do this process on the speedrun file because in the game's code, it's only seeing me as taking 1 step from exiting the trade to talking to the lady to start trading again. Now that all the eggs are checked, I need to trade a new Aerodactyl onto the speedrun file so I can teach it Double Edge to use for the next run. And I need to do this for all runs going forward. And now that everything's traded off of the speedrun file, I can reset the file, start over. This speedrun and trades took almost 21 hours, definitely faster than hatching normally, but I'm still 24 hours behind if I were just hatching eggs normally to be at the same number of Chanseys seen. So let's make some improvements. First, I don't need to be completely erasing the save file every time I want to start a new game. That's a later generation issue, so I can just save in-game over the old file and keep my game settings so I don't have to set text speed to fast and battle style to set every time I do a new run. Next, I need to be catching and training Pokemon for that 60 Dex requirement the entire time, not just after I beat the game. So on that note, I traded over an EXP share on the Mewtwo and used that throughout the game, and then gave Aerodactyl a lucky egg that I had to make up the experience difference he was going to see. This time at Misty, I just started with Dragonite, but that still was pretty slow because he still didn't want to obey. And as time goes on, that Dragonite's going to level up if I kept doing this, so he's going to listen less and less until he gets level 100. I'm going to need another solution on that front. Rival Squirtle is also currently giving Aerodactyl a decent amount of trouble right after Misty and at Rival Fivel. Since I can't use him from Mount Moon to Misty, he's pretty underleveled, and the type disadvantage is a bit too much for him to overcome. This time around, I picked up a Pecha Berry north of Cerulean to help with Koga, and a Lumberry west of Lavender Town to help with Erica. And I do as many in-game trades as I'm able to. Surge and Erica are no issue now. Rival Fivel, I decided to try using Switch battle style and switching into Mewtwo for Blastoise, but I'm still not happy with this path. I also made sure to actually pick up the Master Ball this time for Snorlax, because Snorlax makes my life easier catching Pokemon with Snore. Previously I just ran from it and didn't even bother. Koga with the Pecha Berry was slow, but it was a lot more consistent. And this time around I got the Super Rod to catch more Pokemon so that I didn't have to evolve and level up so many. Blaine and Giovanni were still inconsistent and slow though, so I still need more work on that front. Now that I know what I need to do for Sevi Islands, I was able to bring a Dig and Teleport Pokemon to get around a little easier, and already having the 60 Pokemon allowed me to get the National Dex just immediately. And that took off around 1.5 hours of total speedrun time. And now, once I've got these Chanseys traded, checked, and traded back, it's time to do the next run. To try and help Aerodactyl with Brock, I tried fighting extra trainers before his gym, but ultimately that didn't make a noticeable difference. And I came up with a better solution later. There was only minor changes in this run, but I was realizing I was spending a lot of time fishing and catching Safari Zone Pokemon, so I might want to come up with alternatives for that. I was also trading the Aerodactyl for the next run after I did all my Chansey checks, when it's simpler and easier to just do it with the initial trade at the start of the game, and then bringing him along as I go by the Victory Road move tutor for Double Edge. And so now that I have 2 extra Pokemon with no held items, I tried giving a Thunderbolt TM and a Thunderstone to the other one so that I could use it for the next run. And with this third run, we've officially passed normal egg hunting. We are currently at 1,560, whereas with the same amount of time hatching normally, I'd only be at 1,402. So let's keep that momentum. To try and deal with Misty this time around, I decided to try a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, evolve it, teach it to Thunderbolt, and just sweep Misty. I also chose a Bulbasaur after I did my Charmander soft resets so that the rival had Charmander instead of Squirtle, and that made all of the rival fights significantly easier. I also realized I should be switching out Aerodactyl on Blaine's Arcanine so that I can reset my attack stat. That's about it for changes on this run. After hatching the eggs this time, I decided to transfer Giga Drain TM instead of Thunderbolt and forego the Thunderstone. Because on run number 5, I realized there's no reason to catch Pikachu. I can just use the Bulbasaur I already am starting to pick up with Giga Drain, and that can finish off any issues with Brock and solo Misty. Run number 6, I realized if I bring a Teleport Pokemon before I go to the Sevi Islands at all, after I get kicked from the Sevi Islands from doing the Meteor quest line, I can go to Professor Oak, get the National Dex, and then teleport back to Sevi Islands, having never set foot in the SSN. The rest of the runs mainly just have me trying to reduce the number of Pokemon Center visits, number of Pokemart visits, shuffling around which Pokemon I catch and when I catch them, and reduce the time spent trying to get that 60 Dex total. I also tried using PP apps, gathering elixirs, but ultimately I only needed to watch my PP carefully and better know my damage ranges for moves I wasn't using, like Aerial Ace on Marowak. I also realized I don't need to be learning Rock Slide. It was inconsistent due to the accuracy, and the 5 PP Ancient Power didn't have as much of an impact as I expected. I also made sure to pick up rare candies to use for Pokemon that only needed one level to evolve, rather than using EXP share, and picking up any potions I could along the way to make things simpler and more consistent for skipping Pokemon centers. I fully removed the Safari Zone after a certain point from my catching path because it was just way too RNG dependent. I decided a good rod was more convenient to pick up rather than going out of my way for a super rod, and I wanted to do less fishing encounters anyway because they ended up being slow. I also figured out I could be using the 4th move slot from Mewtwo for Toxic rather than Recover. Mewtwo never needed to use Recover. It is immortal. And so Toxic on a Pokemon allowed me to push my captures a lot closer to that 99% chance to catch, even if I only used Toxic and then immediately used an Ultra Ball, rather than trying to switch into Snorlax because I can't have him at my front of my party because he can't run from anything in battle. As I got more streamlined, money became the next big issue and required me to actually map out what exactly I needed to buy, when I was able to afford it, and I needed to make sure I had enough money, mainly for game corner purchases and repels. Somewhere along the way, once I understood exactly how much money I had, I started using X attacks to solve inconsistent fights due to IV discrepancies between the Aerodactyls. Somewhere around 30 runs deep, I only needed to visit 3 Pokemon centers for healing and party management, unless I got really bad luck and just wanted to heal. And ultimately, my hell items were a Lucky Egg on Aerodactyl, an EXP share on Mewtwo to use throughout the game, Giga Drain on Dragonite for Bulbasaur, and a Nugget just for a little extra money early. While the 40 runs it took play simultaneously in the background, here's some random facts I learned while doing this hunt. Coliseum and XD moves cannot be bred onto Pokemon like egg moves. Was disappointed on that. I was hoping to teach my Chansey wish. In the Vermilion Gym, you can actually save after finding that first trash can switch, and boy, was it needed, because this RNG is annoying. On run number 28, I ran out of Aerodactyls, having already passed odds, so I had to collect another batch of Aerodactyls. Steps inside the trade room do not count toward the step counter for egg cycles. You need to enter the Pokemon Center in Mount Moon and Power Plant to be able to fly back there later. Items do not spawn in the underground paths if you never go in the SSN. Bulbasaur was usually so bad I needed to use a potion on that first battle, and there's an extra tutorial in that battle for using an item. Beating Misty set your warp point to Cerulean City Pokemon Center, even if you never went inside. I had one run where the ID was 21467. I forgot to save before I soft reset and had to make a new file. That new file had the numbers 42761. Same numbers, different order. I named my Mewtwo Z and my Aerodactyl A because ZA was coming out while I was hunting. The 40th run is linked in the description of the video if anyone wanted to see the route in real time. Based on my results, this process would be twice as fast if I just had Pokemon Box, and it would be viable for me to use for any egg hunt as a faster method. But as things stand, someone else using 2 cartridges would be just as fast as me using this method. Total time was 812 hours to get this shiny, and I quote-unquote saved 787 hours if I had just been using 1 cartridge standard hunting. If you watched the portion of the video where I was showing how I came up with my routing and you have any ideas to save time, put it in the comments. I would love to hear it. I do plan to do this process for Tauros and Jinx, so if you have any ideas, improving the runs is what made this process a lot less draining.
right here is a National Geographic exclusive.
Shiny Chansey! My heart.
Finally! Okay. So, that is the 4th slot. Now I got a soft reset and go to Safari Zone. Oh my goodness. Why is it when I'm trying something for the first time, like Farfetch'd? I was doing my first Firered Leaf Green Egg hunt, and now I'm trying this methodology, which is twice as fast, and I'm happy about that. But I wasn't sure this entire time. I had no reason to doubt, but I wasn't sure this entire time whether or not I could actually get a shiny this way. It's essentially the same as Bank, and I've seen people do it with Ruby Sapphire, because that doesn't require beating the whole game. To the Safari Zone for the hat. Boom shakalaka. Oh, I'm glad this confirmed it's possible. I'm probably will do this for Tauros, but it's not worth it mathematically for the other Rhyhorn and Lickitung. Both of those I can do normally, just releasing the eggs and do a side hunt, like a ton of extra fishing encounters just to see if I can get that 4%. Man, in the time since I've started this, ZA came out, got its DLC, Firered Leaf Green was announced for Switch, released for Switch, and Pokopia has come out.
And Gen 10.
And Gen 10 was announced. This is the 76 out of 151 shiny, so we're officially halfway through. And of course, if you've got a shiny Chansey, you're going to want to get the lucky egg. To get this lucky egg, I encountered 278 Chanseys, caught 45, and it took a total of 25 hours of Safari Zone encounters. I did see a back-to-back Tauros with a repel trick that would be around 1.3% chance to encounter each Tauros, and I found one back-to-back, which is neat. So let's get this Chansey traded over to the hub save file. Let's get this into the right slot here. As you can see, it's got the egg move present. Right in front of Tangela. I'm still going to need to do another Rhyhorn to be able to get Rhydon. So that's going to be another egg hunt, but just doing it standard method will be the same speed and less effort. I do want to get Mewtwo next, actually, since I'm almost at 150 subscribers and Mewtwo's dex is 150, so why not? That's about it. Good luck with all your hunts.